Welcome back, everyone, to another Downward Day. And I apologize ahead of time for taking so long on this series. I've had a lot of main channel obligations to deal with, and that sort of pushed back my telling of this whole labor series right here. But it's the holiday season. I'm feeling festive. Some time has opened up for me to once again record my thoughts on this idea of virtue in labor, the great American ideal. So last time on the show, I talked about how the economic system uses this idea of virtue in labor to basically take advantage of people's good nature, of people wanting to be valuable, of people wanting to be useful to others around them. And how modern American society has developed this ideal and continues to repeat it, that it is so good and virtuous to work, when all it really does at a raw economic level is transfer value from you to your employer, from you to corporations, to shareholders, stockholders, venture capitalists, whatever. The point is that probably for 95% of the workers in this country, it is not in their interest to work harder, despite what everyone says, despite what all the older generations and all the generic tutelage would lead us to believe. Where if you're working a job where you're exchanging your time and energy for a paycheck, there's a very high chance that you are not receiving the value in that relationship. And today on the show, I want to pry a little bit deeper into that question, into this whole sticky situation that we've presented for ourselves here, where if the value of working doesn't come from the money, then where does it come from? And this is going to sound like a very simple question, but it bears repeating for the nature of our discussion here. Why do you go to work? Honestly, why do you go to work? Why does anyone go to work? Take away the obvious part of earning money to pay your bills and maintain your standard of living. Why do you show up? Why do you show up to the office, or the construction site, or the restaurant, or the retail store? Why? What is keeping you there other than the promise of a new deposit in your bank account at the end of each week? Why do you get up and go to work, if not for money? And I'm sure there's some of you watching who may say, I just really enjoy what I do. And if you can answer that question with that, then congratulations, you're one of the lucky ones in society. But I don't know, based on what I observe by physically going out into society, I got a feeling that it's probably the case that most American workers don't enjoy what they do. Probably because when I go to any average restaurant or retail store, or really almost any place with employees these days, more times than not, I see almost all of them walking around with this shell-shocked expression like they just got back from war, basically. Or like every day for them is going to war. You don't get this expression when you're having a pleasant time, when you're doing something that you find particularly fulfilling, or when you're doing something that you think is actually going to be useful to you beyond the immediate future. I mean, I don't exactly know if I have the highest emotional intelligence out there, but it's pretty easy as a human to tell when someone is not having a good time. And these days, it's almost every worker I see. I don't really know if it was different when I was a kid, but in this post-COVID, wagey, scarce economy, the so-called dire labor shortage, which is basically just corporations saying, let's slash our workforce in half and then pretend that no one wants to work so that we can reduce our payroll expense by half while still raking in the same profits, because everyone can just do online order and pick up and delivery now, and it doesn't matter if the store is at half capacity and nothing can get done for any of the customers because we're only hiring half the people. Oh, but we're not hiring less people. No, it's the workers. They don't want to work. And you know what? Maybe that's accurate. Because every time I've been in a department store or a chain restaurant since COVID, it's been almost nothing but this. So I don't know, maybe that's some of you guys watching this video right now. Maybe you're that person. And you tell me, what keeps you coming into work? Is it money? Is it literally only money? Okay, it's fine to admit that, you know? It's fine to admit that. And you know what else? I imagine that's the circumstance, and that's the primary, if not the sole, motivation of nearly every American worker, why they get up out of bed, drive in gridlock traffic in our rapidly failing infrastructure, and go to some office or some chain restaurant or some retail department store and spend their day in a perpetual traumatic stress panic attack like a soldier that just got back from Iwo Jima. That's probably your life if you're a worker in America. But you do it, and you soldier through, and you go through the slog of your day after day, week after week, month after month, because you need money. Everyone needs money. It's expensive to live in this country. It only gets more expensive. And that's why, to me, at least circumstantially, based on the reality of the American economy, there's no shame in admitting you're only in it for the money. No shame at all. What else are you supposed to do? Find that one job you really, really want to do, your dream job? You know, the thing about dreams is that they really only tend to stay within our heads. They're probably not ever going to exist outside of the thought bubble. Yeah, I bet everyone's dream is to be the director of the next GTA game. You know how many people get to live that dream? And it's probably not going to be you. In fact, the odds of it being you is astronomically low. Lower than perhaps even winning the Powerball. It's safe to say that most people aren't living the dream, and work for them is simply a means to an end, which that's really all it should be, theoretically, at least in the modern sense. I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. Why do you go to work? You go to work to get a paycheck. Why did you apply to whichever job you applied for? Probably because it paid the most while having you do the least amount of effort. Am I off base here? Am I saying anything new? Am I saying anything that anyone hasn't thought of already in the back of their head a million times? Is this like groundbreaking information for any of you? No? Okay, then why does so much of society and so much of the culture of America orbit around this idea that the simple act of working is so much more valuable and virtuous than just a simple transaction, a simple means to an end? According to so many people, we're supposed to sit here and be thankful for the grand privilege of being able to work for someone and collect a paycheck. It's such an immense privilege for someone to pay you for your labor that to take it for granted would be an immense disrespect to something or somebody. That's what you're told. Whenever you complain about anything regarding your job, inequity, improper treatment, disrespect, you as the employee being disrespected, whenever you complain about it, you're always met with this thing. It was like, oh, you should be lucky. Oh, you should consider yourself lucky that you get to go to work. Oh, you should take pride in the simple act that you worked hard. Okay, well, should a slave take pride in working hard? An enslaved person who does labor for zero wage, should an enslaved person feel this immense sense of pride? I mean, if it's the labor and not the money that you're supposed to take pride from, shouldn't slaves be the most virtuous people in the world? Because they get the privilege of doing all this labor while making no money. Oh, but the money doesn't matter. People aren't working simply for money. It doesn't matter. People are working for the sake of working because it's supposed to make you feel good or something. To work. To repeatedly bash your head against a wall for 10 hours a day. It's supposed to make you feel good. And here's another thing. If people in this country truly believed that the act of working alone is this immensely virtuous thing, then the people who undergo the most arduous, exhaustive work in this country should be the most celebrated, right? If the simple act of work is this tremendous virtue, then people who do the most work, the most actual exhaustion of their physical body, they should be worthy of the most praise. You should be hearing about them all the time. Everyone should be just infatuated with these people. There should be a televised awards ceremony every year for the hardest workers in America. But is there? Do we even know who works the hardest in this country? Who works the hardest? Who is worthy of the most virtue and praise based on engaging with this oh so virtuous act of donating your labor? Does anyone know who even works the hardest in America? Does anyone care? Seems like we probably should, based on the number of people out there who insist that working in and of itself is something to be proud of. But boy, what do you know? There is no regal televised ceremony or gala based on the hardest workers in America. The people we celebrate in this country are in the position they are not because they have this gritty working man persona that gives the impression that they're doing oh so much arduous manual labor, which we're supposed to believe is this super valuable thing for us. And to answer the question, I'm pretty sure if you crunch the numbers, the hardest singular workers in this country are probably illegal immigrants from Mexico and Cuba and Guatemala. A group of people who are often vilified and hated, usually by the very same people who tell you and point and wag the finger at you that you're supposed to take so much pride in a hard day's work. It's the same people. Out of all the jobs in America that require a human to do a thing, the absolute most difficult and physically exhaustive are almost entirely made up of immigrant labor, who usually have to work unlawful hours for unlawful wages. Basically, the closest thing we still have today to slavery. These are the people doing all the jobs that Americans figured out that they were too good for decades ago. And these are also probably the people responsible for keeping your Chipotle bowl under $26. These are the hardest workers in America. And yet, where's their praise? More often than not, they are attacked and blamed for causing all the economic problems that we see today. But in terms of actual labor and man hours, which we're simultaneously told is the most important, virtuous thing a person can do in America, these immigrant workers from south of the border are probably, pound for pound, the hardest workers in America. And yet, we kind of like to pretend they don't exist. We kind of like to pretend that they're not solely responsible for keeping costs 50% less expensive than they already are, even with the rise of inflation, aka blatant price gouging by corporations to increase profits. These people are sort of just ignored and swept under the rug and kind of lumped into the whole invisible hand of the economy. You know, it's magic. It's magic why your Chipotle bowl doesn't cost $26. Just don't think about it and go back to consuming. But hey, you know, for the people who actually do the most of this supposedly great American virtue, we sure don't treat them like it. In fact, the way we kind of just turn a blind eye and pretend like none of it exists is a response that's a lot closer to shame than pride. And why would that be? How could that be in a country where working is supposed to be the greatest virtue? Maybe we can find the answer in the people and public figures and celebrities in this country that we actually consider the most virtuous. People like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos. Oh my God, they have so much money. So much money, guys. They make more in a single month than most Americans do in a lifetime. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that like totally awesome? Or you know what? What about Kim Kardashian? Like the richest woman in the world, other than like Jeff Bezos' ex-wife who took half his money or something. Kim Kardashian, probably the most illustrious woman in the world, got famous by having a TV show that literally shows her doing nothing and not working all day. But she's like the biggest celebrity. She is the most celebrated woman on earth. And now why is that? Why exactly is Kim Kardashian held in so much higher of a regard than migrant laborers? Could it be possibly because Americans only care about money and status? No way, no. It's got to be more complex than that, you know? I mean, we have such a culturally diverse, culturally dynamic country here with a big melting pot, you know? It can't possibly be that all of the most celebrated people in our society are only where they are because they give off the biggest impression of having wealth and status. But what exactly, qualitatively, would that imply? To give off the impression of wealth and status. What does that exactly look like? And, ladies and gentlemen, here's where it all comes full circle. The image of wealth in this country is created almost solely off of the premise of not having to work. We like to imagine that people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates got to the level of celebrity they have simply because, they were such ingenious inventors. They were such tremendous scientific minds to the body of work of the pool of knowledge for humanity. Or that they single-handedly provided us with the fruits of such extremely useful and important inventions towards the technological advancement of humanity. And we like to tell ourselves that's why they're revered. But if you actually look at how we talk about these people and how they're reflected in the media, it doesn't really have much to do with what they've done. It doesn't really have much to do with what they've given the world and provided for the good of humanity. People like Gates and Elon Musk are only as well known as they are because they made a shitload of money, okay? And can we stop pretending that it's anything more than that? There have been plenty of great inventors in history. Think of the most useful things you use every day in your life. Do you know the name of the person who invented any of them? Probably not, because guess what? They probably didn't make as much money as Gates or Elon Musk did. So they're invisible and they're lost to history as a little tiny historical factoid. Tim Berners-Lee, creator of the World Wide Web. Congratulations. Most people don't know who you are because you provided something of value to humanity and you didn't cash in on it to the nth degree, and you didn't become a top 5 wealthiest person on earth. So no one knows who you are and no one cares. And why is that? Why are Americans so drawn to ideas of money, to mass collections and acquisitions of wealth? Why is it that whenever you type in someone's name on Google search, one of the first autocomplete results underneath the search bar is the person's name followed by their net worth? Why do you suppose that is? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because people look up the net worth of someone like The Rock, or Kanye West, or Tiger Woods, or LeBron James, or any great illustrious figure in our society, and then they think, what would it be like if I had that much money? And now let me ask that question. What would it be like if you had Bill Gates' income for a month? Just a month of Bill Gates' income. Just a month of Elon Musk's income. What would you do? And I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to quit your job and stop working and live off the money for the rest of your life, not working. That is the little mental exercise every worker in America does when they Google some rich guy's name followed by net worth. That's the gears spinning in your head. What if I had that much money? If I had that much money, I would stop working forever. And that's why these people are celebrated. That's why they're illustrious. That's why they're the most famous people in America and even the world. Because they made a lot of money and they have the ability to stop working and just do whatever the hell they want for the rest of their life. They're the few people in this country who have achieved the true level of autonomy that over generations of the development of agriculture and economics have been stripped away from the rest of us. That's why these people are so celebrated. Because they have the potential to not work. They have the ability to fuck off and go sunbathe on a yacht all day in Abu Dhabi. So don't tell me that working hard should be celebrated when the most celebrated people in America are only where they are, at least in terms of public opinion. They are only at that level of luster in how everyone sees them because people use them as physical manifestations to imagine themselves not working. Because that's the truth. The ability to not work should be celebrated. And I'm tired of everyone pretending that the ability and choice to not work should be seen as this shameful, lazy thing, this shameful, selfish thing. We all want it, and we all know what we want. And you might not say it, and you might come up with this totally egregious cope of trying to tell yourself that all the work and toil for a job you hate, for amounts of money that are way too low, for the crap they make you put up with, you can tell yourself it's all okay because there's virtue in working hard. You can repeat that to yourself all day long, and maybe that's what it's going to take to make it just 1% more bearable. But when people actually show you what they like, it's a window to the truth. And the truth is that everyone wants to be Elon Musk, and no one wants to be a migrant worker who picks tomatoes in 100-degree weather from sunup to sundown. If you live in America, you work to get money. And you get money so that you don't have to work. And that's the worker's paradox. So once again, I'm going to ask, why do you go to work? And this time, you should really think about it.